right, well, the idea of catching a comet has long captured the human imagination, but it may soon be a reality. The European Space Agency's Rosetta satellite was launched 10 years ago, and this week it finally caught up with its target, Comet 67-P. If all goes according to plan, Rosetta will begin orbiting the comet and send a small probe to land on its surface in November. The probe will then analyze the comet's surface and beam the results back to Earth. This mission is pretty cool, but it could also lead to some scientific breakthroughs. Here to explain is WGBH News science editor Heather Goldstone. Welcome. So why are scientists so excited about this?
Well, comets are basically balls of dust and ice, but that dust and ice is composed of the same materials that scientists think were around basically at the birth of the solar system, and they think have essentially been unchanged for 4.6 billion years. And so it's a way of looking back at the origins of our whole solar system. So they're going to try to send this lander down to actually do some sampling of what's inside the comet.
All right, so this satellite lander thing also has its own Twitter account. What's the point of that?
It does. Rosetta has its own Twitter account with more than 40,000 followers. And earlier this week, when its controllers woke it back up and it sent its hello world message back to controllers, that was echoed on Twitter in about 24 different languages. You know, the Mars rovers have Twitter accounts with over 200,000 followers. It's a great way for these missions to keep in touch with the public and drum up some more public interest and give them a little bit more personality than a robot might have otherwise.
I can totally understand, but what I'm missing here is where the science comes in. How does it? Twitter account is really helping you with the science.
Well, yes and no. I think it's an indication of how communications has changed and the way that we're interacting with these different robots. So to use a different example, because everything in my life comes back to the ocean, if you look at ocean science, where we have this same sort of unmanned or remotely operated exploration going on all the time, there's a boat called the Okeanos Explorer. And this is basically built to send robots down onto the ocean floor or deep into the ocean, take video, but send it back not only to the boat, but to researchers back on land via a live feed. And so classrooms and the public can tune into this. But this past summer, when they were out surveying canyons off the Northeast coast, which is what we're looking at here, they also had about 40 labs around the country connected to it at the same time. And the researchers involved with that say that the collaborations, the discoveries, everything just goes so much more quickly when you're connected in real time this way.
So do you think this means that manned exploration is basically obsolete?
No.
Oh,
no, absolutely. And, you know, that's
more exciting if there's a man on board.
Well, yes and no. You know, there's an ongoing tension, as I said, both in space exploration and in ocean exploration about the role of these two. But I think there's an increasing recognition, particularly by the public, of what unmanned, and I know people in the field hate that term, but there's not really a good alternative, what these robotic explorations can do. And the Hubble Space Telescope is the classic example. You know, it's been up there since 1990, has sent back iconic images of space, but perhaps one of my favorites, there's been over 10,000 scientific papers that have come from this, but in the past 10 years, what we've gotten from Hubble has been something called the ultra deep field, and now the extreme deep field. And what happened was that they pointed the telescope at what they thought was a dark part of the sky, and what they saw was this: over 10,000 galaxies that we didn't know about.
Not
galaxies.
Stars,
Each of those dots is a galaxy.
And I can't get my head around
and just exactly, it's mind-boggling. And then they looked at what looked like a dark spot in that deep field and saw over 5,000 more galaxies. And we're talking about galaxies that are well over 10 billion years old. These just extremely old galaxies, and they're beautiful.
The sophistication of that technology, even 10 years ago, and think how far we've come since then.
Yeah, it's amazing. There's going to be a new space telescope going up, slated for 2018, actually, I think, to replace Hubble. But yeah, it just goes to the power of what these spacecraft can do, even without a human being there.
Man on Mars? I mean, are we going there?
You know, I think the argument is just that the bang for your buck just isn't there, that there are certain things that humans do need to be there to do. For everything else, we should be putting our effort into using robotics to the best of its ability to get the most scientific information.
All right, Heather Goldstone.
My
Thanks
pleasure.
for that.